So, hello, happy Monday, everyone, or Tuesday if you happen to be in Australia. So, we're talking to the man from tomorrow here, Steve Brossman, and we're going to talk about how to make money as a podcast guest. And I believe you were doing some sales promotions, and you still do. And then you've been doing this program on being a successful and prosperous podcast host. So maybe you can talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, look, when we first connected, and look, geez, we've been connected now for 3-4 years or more.
Yeah.
I was predominantly working with professionals, entrepreneurs, helping them position themselves, package themselves, and helping them sell themselves better. And, on the back of the back pocket guide, how to sell yourself without selling your soul. And primarily that's what I've been doing for quite some time, about 10 years. Yet January 21, let's take it right back, I decided right in the middle of COVID, why not expand my business into a foreign country? And I did it all from a Zoom chair. I basically landed in America with one networking contact. And in the next 10 months, just with a little bit of networking and being a guest on podcasts, I turned that part of my business into six figures. And I've been doing it each year ever since, being a guest on podcasts, generating six figures. And it wasn't until a couple of my clients that were coming to me, they're just getting started, and they said, Steve, what are you doing? One in particular was paying to get on 2 to 3 podcasts per week, and in 3 months hadn't generated a significant client. And I thought, there's got to be something wrong. So I had a look at the way they were running their podcast as a guest and how they were showing up. And then I started looking at a lot of others and what they were doing. And then I started looking at some of the training that was out there. And I thought, wow, everybody is following this training and nobody's getting results. So I thought, nah, it's time to go back, work out what is working, package it up, and then share it with people so they can actually get great value out of being a podcast guest. Because I know so many people get on podcasts, want to share their message, increase their brand, build their business, but it just doesn't happen. So that's what's brought me to now. And because podcasts are becoming a much more valid form of marketing, I'll share some statistics in a minute, Greg, that people really do need to treat it seriously as a really good quantifiable form of growing their business. So that's brought me to now.
Okay. Awesome. That's awesome. So that's brought you to now. So you have to take it seriously. So basically, I think you were a guest on our Storyvan TV 3 years ago. And I guess I'm going to confess that we never thought of it as a business in any way. We met you, we liked what you had to say, and said, well, let's have a broadcast. You're going to come up and you'll share something useful for everybody. And that's kind of the way we approached it. And still we interview and broadcast a lot of entrepreneurs. But it isn't something that we've actually tried to monetize ourselves. So what you're saying is the first thing is a mindset. Like this is true. This says, well, this is possible for me to actually use it as an important business tool to boost the business.
Yeah. Let's have a look at what's happening or what has already happened with social media. You can't trust it. You can put stuff out there. And generally, if you're promoting yourself, it would sound like, hey, look at me. I've got some really cool stuff that I'm sharing with you. And it could go to anybody. It could go anywhere, but your reach is getting less. And if you're going to pay to play, it's getting more expensive. So it's the unknown, uncertain, and it's all about me. Whereas if you're a guest on somebody's podcast, they've already built the relationship with the audience. They're asking you and they're inviting you to talk about yourself in a very comfortable way. So it's not as if you get on there and say, hey, look at me. It's just like we're having a conversation and we help people craft the conversation and choreograph it so that people really get excited about it. And then it's how you can, during that time, build the relationship with a specific audience. Now, if you were paying for that on, let's just say, Facebook, to get in front of, and let's say the podcast only reaches 100 or 200 people over a few weeks. If you're paying to get in front of, getting to talk to, build a relationship with targeted people on Facebook, it's going to cost you hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and it's hit and miss. Whereas because you've specifically been invited by somebody that they know, like, and trust already, it's like group referrals if you do it the right way. And here's the statistic that is really cool, Greg. 89% of marketers surveyed last year, over 1,600 of them, said that they were going to increase their spend in audio marketing. Now, that's a term that I really hadn't heard that much about before, but audio marketing, they're going to be increasing their spend. So the big boys that spend millions of dollars in working out what works and what doesn't work are going to be spending money on audio marketing, podcasting, podguesting, and some other activities. But if they're going to do it, we can't be too arrogant and say, well, we're not going to worry about it. No, we should follow their lead and work out how we, as smaller people, can get value out of it.
No, that's perfect. I'm glad you brought up the audio because actually you're talking about podcasts, and I always have resisted that word because what I do is a broadcast or vlogcast, a video cast, but the podcast for me was really just audio over. That word, it's gone out the window. People are just talking about anything that's on streamed as a podcast. I still resist that definition, but I think one of the things is, in this age of video where people are told that video is so much important, and if you're not doing video, you're going to die. I think it's not quite true. I think video works mostly because of the words that are involved with the video. Like, nobody would watch your video if you didn't have good copy and get to encourage people to watch it. And the other thing is, I tend to, even if it's video, I tend to watch it with my eyes closed. So I'm an audio person, really. And the audio has, if you've got a broadcast, a podcast, it's something people can listen to while they're walking. It's something they can play in the car, and all sorts of things. And we have some people who specialize in doing advertising through Spotify and other streaming platforms. So it's a big thing. And also, I live in a little town, and there's probably no better use for your marketing dollar than to have a small ad on the radio, because that's one thing that gets to almost everybody.
Yeah, and you know me, we share the same passion for videos, and sure, 89% said they're going to increase their audio marketing spend, but 97% of those marketers still said videos is the most powerful tool. Now, as you said, look, if the podcast is a video podcast, and I'm saying around about 80% of the podcasting that I do are on video podcasts. So they're recorded just like we're recording now.
Yeah.
But it's more convenient for more people to listen, as you said, on the walk, on the run, on the bike, in the car, and they can listen to it as it's more convenient than actually just sitting down and watching it. So there are more people. You will reach more people, but most people will record it as a video, and then they have the choice of watching it and listening to it.
Yeah, I like to cater to people's styles. Like Bonnie, for example, she doesn't like to listen to it or watch anything. She wants the transcript. So if you have a transcript in the show notes, she'll read the show notes rather than watch the video. And then, I tend to listen to things, and then other people just love the video part. So everybody, I do this for my online courses and memberships, is I try to cater to all three people. You've got enough text notes so they don't have to watch the video, but if they don't want to read anything, they can watch the video, or they can listen to the audio in their car or while they're out walking. So so we, it's sort of, You
So that's
allow
the
for different fun.
platform. Yeah. And this next bit is for those of your people that are listening right now in live or the replay that are actually currently getting on podcasts and they're not seeing some results. And if it's okay, I'm just going to give a couple of little tips. And we're going to talk about it a little bit later. We've got some live training coming up. I'm going to invite your people to come along as your guest, my guest, for some training on how they can actually become what we call an in-demand, dynamic, and profitable pod guest. But here's a couple of things just for you now to think about. And some of the existing, and I'll call it old training, even though it's out there right now, they'll tell you to share your story, share your expertise, and then send them somewhere. In fact, I was on some training the other day listening to what they were talking about. It was like, well, build a relationship with the host, give some good information, and be very clear where to send them when they say, so how can people contact you? That is one of the most archaic ways of actually doing it. Here's a little thing that if you're going to write down, there are actually three relationships in a podcast. Most of you will know that there's a relationship with you and the host, and you want to have a great relationship with them, and you can elevate and edify them. A lot of people don't do that. They'll just let them run. They're there to ask me some questions, and I'm only there to answer the questions. And if I do a good job at answering the questions, then people might like me, think I'm smart, and want to work with me. No. Let's build the next relationship. That's the relationship swinging it back round to the audience. And it's you connecting directly with the audience. And it may be through Greg. Say, Greg, this is just for your people. This is just for you right now. If you're listening to this right now, get your pen out, write this down. It's me connecting with you. Now, if you're the guest, you should be thinking about that relationship and how you can pull them into the conversation. But the other one, which is where the money starts to happen, is how do you enhance and elevate the relationship of the host and the audience? And there's ways that you do that. And when you're elevating the host in front of his people, they start feeling really good about what it is, and they get a surge of dopamine. When you're bringing the audience into the conversation, they're having a surge of oxytocin, which is the belonging drug. And that feeling of being involved in a podcast, more than just sitting back as the audience and a spectator, when you're feeling that involved, you don't want it to end. It's like, well, I want what this person has for me next. And that's just one of the things that we're going to be covering in this this training that we've got coming up.
Yeah, no, that's perfect, Steve. So it's you and the host and the audience, and if you can get them all connected, because if you're engaging the host audience, that's good for the host, and if you're engaging the audience, it's good for the audience, for both. So
see, the things that happens there and the behind the scenes, the neuroscience behind what's happening there is you've moved from, and if you're giving some great information that's usable and people like it, and that's what we say, be the prize, not the professor. Now, a lot of people want to get on there and just sprout their knowledge, and I do this, and it could be great information, but if you're not really engaging them and they'll feel the outcome that they're going to get from it, and they're just getting knowledge, at the end of it, they'll just go, well, that was nice, clap and walk off. And that's not what you want. By giving them, you, the host, the surge of dopamine and making you feel fantastic through the interview, and then the audience and pulling them in and giving them the surge of oxytocin, everybody's feeling great. Instead of just being educated, they're excited. And the host will say, that was one of the best podcasts I've ever done. Technically, may not be, but because you made them feel so good, they say, wow, that was just so good. And then the audience, because they've been involved, and say, well, that was one of the best podcasts ever, may not have been the best information, but you made them give them that sense of belonging, and they want to keep that up, and therefore they'll want to take the next step with you.
And that's really good advice. Entertain and engage, really. I don't know if you know about this. I don't know. I just sort of stumbled into, I got to be the go-to person for shooting video of keynote addresses, right? And so sometimes I didn't even meet the speaker. I would show it, and I was at an event. It was an educational conference, and I got there and I got my camera all set up. And anyway, I'm watching there, and there was the speaker was just droning on, and everybody was like face down, drooling on the table, kind of thing, right? And I said, oh, anyway, I met the speaker, and I said, you got some task to kind of bring back this audience from the dead, right? And she said, oh, don't worry. Anyway, she had them all running around playing rock, paper, scissors, and just so totally engaged, and whatever she was selling, people were buying at the end of it, just because they were totally engaged and involved, and
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that was a skill.
It is. And it is a skill, and you can learn it. And one of the things that we do teach is a framework to be able to connect with the people, lead them through, so that they will want to do whatever it is that they're going to work with you. And there's ways of doing that. And the last thing that I ever want to be called, or my people be called, is pushy or salesy. Yet there's an art and a science. There is the both. There is the art of the communication. There is the science to get them to move and take action. There is the art and the science of being able to work with and excite the host and the audience so that they want to do whatever it is with you next. And a lot of people, and you've probably seen this 100 times before, is they'll get on with one focus. I'm going to do a great podcast so I can get a client. We teach the 4 Ps of engagement and growing your business with podcasts. Sure, purchase. That's the first one. You might have somebody say, love what you're saying. I want to go buy your program, product, or service. There's pass on, which is the referral. Love what you're saying. It's not for me right now, but it was so clear, so compelling that I can tell others about it. So you want to be so clear and compelling that they'll say, this person does this, you need to talk to him or her. So there's the first 2 Ps. Then there's the promote, and then there's the partner. They're the 2 big ones that we teach. And that's where the real money is, whether it's promoting and partnering with the host, or with somebody else says, love what you're doing. My people need that. How about you work with my people as a group and partner, etc. So when you're going into a conversation, whether it's podcasting or even networking, and you go in thinking about the 4 Ps, not just the, I've got to do a good job so I can sell a membership or a coaching program, then your whole thought process opens up, and the opportunities are so much bigger. And it's a lot more fun when you've got so many different ways to work with people.
Yeah, for sure. Like sometimes, especially in networking groups, your ideal client is probably not in the room. So your mission is to get somebody who's willing to refer you, right? So, and so it's I've seen some people who never figure that out for years. So.
Yeah, I've seen that so many. It's like the old physical, well, I guess they're back again, physical networking days. Yeah, people run around with the physical business cards and say, hey, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff. And it's like, the money is not in, to me, never has been. The money is not in the one-off individual clients. It's the collaborations. Look, it's what we're doing together. It's how we work together. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. The one piece of advice I heard about, like a speak to sell presentation, or you're a guest or whatever, is to have one call to action that you have in mind, that at the end of this thing, you want somebody either to make an appointment with you or go check something out or go buy something. Does that apply to what you do?
If your people have got a pen in their hand or a keyboard in front of them, write this down, tattoo it on the back of your eyelids. I don't care where you put it. Clarity equals cash.
Okay.
Now, the people that get to the end, they'll say, oh, you can catch me on LinkedIn, you can get to me on Facebook, and you can do this, you can find me here, you can whatever. And the other key mistake that people make is waiting to the end.
Yeah.
And that's a huge mistake. And we've got a way of choreographing it early so that if we're having a part of the discussion and I've just given some great information, you'll just say, fantastic, Steve, my people are going to love that. I'll say, well, I've got something really special just for your people. And it's this. We're going to go a lot further. Oh, look, we'll talk about that at the end.
Yeah.
And they're all excited. Whoops. They're all excited. I get excited. I hit the microphone. They're all excited about what's coming up. It's like, I want to find out that, because that bit of information there was great. It's tied into what he's giving away. I want that. I want to take the next step. So they're excited, not, hey, Steve, that was some really good information. What is the best way for people to contact you? It's like, if it gets to that, you might as well go away, because it should never get to. So that was nice. It's like, hey, Steve, you were talking about this thing really earlier, and I know my people are going to love it. How do they get their hands on it? So you've got them excited about it. The audience is excited about what's coming up. And obviously you should display excitement about giving it to them.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Another thing I see with people who are not comfortable in asking for something is, so it's easy to get in and talk about, you're on the podcast, talk about things. And then at the last minute, I guess I better make an offer. So they cram something in the end and it sounds salesy and cheesy. And so I think that's what I was getting at, is if you know what your end result is, you can craft your whole presentation right from the beginning. You're really future casting and letting people, they know where you're headed. Dave D will say something at the beginning. It says, does anybody here think I'm not going to try to sell you thing at the end? And then he says, well, you won't be disappointed.
Yeah. And one of the big things is you should never be asking.
Yeah.
You should always be giving.
Yeah, for sure.
And the value of what you're going to give will be far in excess of any potential investment. And from the podcast to the next step is generally it'll either be something to read, download, or whatever. So you're actually selling the value of the free next step. A lot of people don't get that. You have to sell the value, because people's time is valuable.
Yeah.
And, one of the worst, and this is in my former training, one of the worst things that you could ever do is give away a free discovery call. You're buying energy. The buying energy of your participants will go down 37% if you call it a free discovery call, because everybody calls it a free discovery call. And everybody knows that it's a cloak and dagger sales call. Discover what? I don't know. So whatever it is, it's consistency. And in my new book coming out called Flow Selling, which will coming out next month, it's all about the energy flow. Now you want to continue the energy flow through the conversation, increase the energy to the end, increase the energy of the host and the audience. And it doesn't mean they have to be bouncing out of the chair and you have to be the ever-ready battery, but it's the energy that you're going to have, and then the energy of them taking the next step. Now, if you say, oh, wow, that was fantastic. Hey, yeah, go and book in a free discovery call. Shit, I'm being sent to a sales call. Well, that was good. Okay, I've just lost the energy. Whereas if you're going to a call, give it a high value title, talk about the outcomes, early in the podcast, and then they're going to be more excited about investing their time into that next step.
Yeah, I think what you want people is they want to reach out because they're interested in what you have to offer. And it's more, that's another step rather than a sales call, as you say.
Yeah.
I'm very reluctant. Now it's become prevalent for people to reach out through text messages and LinkedIn and places. And then, let's get on a call. Well, no. What do you want to talk about first? Because I've got time for the 20 seconds of typing. I don't have time for a 40-minute meeting with somebody who's going to sell me something, and
that's where the energy comes in.
Yes.
If that person has that, and you've done a good job of engaging and building the three relationships, then the next step is, it's just logical in their mind. Their emotions are that high in their mind. It's logical that they've got to take that next step, whatever it is, or whether it's a download, again, bring it in early so that you refer to it a few times. I've got this cool thing. Now that's going to be covered in the download that I've got just for your people.
Okay.
And they're the different things that is going to really highlight, and they're going to feel special that they're getting something. The host is going to feel special because you've said it's just for his people or her people, and the three-way relationships continue to blossom.
Perfect. Yeah. So it's really attraction or magnetic marketing. Really what you're doing is presenting something. And as you said you want to give something. You're giving something away. So you're going to give, whatever it is they're going to get. If they sign up for your webinar and your training session, they're going to get way more out of that than you're going to get out of it financially. They're just going to get, Kim Wells-Phillips says, my life isn't going to change if you don't take up my offer, but yours will.
It's I really enjoy that one, and I've used it a couple of times. I sometimes feel a little arrogant when I'm doing it, but I know hand on heart that if that person got to work with me, their life would change.
Yeah.
But mine probably wouldn't that much, depending on what investment it is. And what we're going to be covering in this masterclass, we're going to take it from scratch and how to build the relationships, how to go before, during, and after. Some of the things that I've covered today will go into greater depth. And this is really for people who do have a business, who do have something to send people to take the next step with them. It's like, well, I've got a successful business. I've got some things that are going on. And look, as you're watching it, Mr. Clever here is putting it all up on the screen. So we're going to go through step by step as to how you can implement it. And look, there is I've built some fantastic training that comes on the back of it. People who have already gone through that are getting some fantastic results. But if all you do is come to the masterclass and walk away with that information, I can pretty well guarantee you your podcasting or podguesting results are going to skyrocket. And it's always good to have a framework to work to, and that gives you the comfort to be more of yourself. Now, a lot of people that don't have a framework and they've got some answers to the questions is they'll answer the question. It's like, well, now what do? I just sit there and wait for the next one. But when you've got some of these other things that you know how to do within it and how you can actually control. Hey, I think we've got time for one more thing.
Okay.
We talk about, and we'll cover this in the masterclass in more detail. We talk about the podcast as a tennis match.
Okay.
The host hits some information over the net, which is probably a question or a suggestion to talk about. You hit it back. Hit it backwards and forwards. But what I see in some instances is people just go off on a monologue and want to get all their information over in one go. And that's like you standing there hitting the ball over the net, and that's not really good fun to watch. You watch the best tennis players. There's the art that they have of hitting the ball over the net in a way that they direct the other person to where they want them to go. I'm going to cover it a little bit in the masterclass, but we covered a lot in our training as to how you can hit your answers back over the net that guides the host where and what to ask the next question on. And that is a real fun way to run a podcast and be a pod guest, is where you can actually be as in control of the conversation as the host is.
Oh, that's great. Your
That's
your tennis analogy brought up. I was just speculating the other day. What if Venus and Serena Williams decided to take up pickleball? How the game might change. Aussie rules pickleball.
I was going to say there might be some bruises on the other end
Well,
of the.
yeah, because I'm pretty sure they'd be. I've watched a lot of pickleball, and there's just kind of like mild mannered table tennis, right? Like I'm pretty sure the Williams sisters would have people running for cover. It may be a wiffle ball, but it would still hurt at close range.
Yeah, they may have to change some of the equipment.
They may have to change some of the equipment. All of a sudden, you need protective equipment to get on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
No, this is absolutely fabulous. So again, there's a registration link there. It's scrolling across the page there. I put it in the chat a couple of times, and it's in the show notes here. And sign up. But you've got 2 days coming up, right?
Well, it's actually 2 dates because we're on a different day to you.
Yes.
It's US time is on the 23rd and Australian time is on the 24th, but there's just the one. Don't miss this one because it's not going to be repeated again for a few months.
Oh, I see. There we go. So it's time shifting. You're not really. Yeah. The man from tomorrow.
Yeah. And so many people says, what are tomorrow's lotto numbers? And I said, well, if I knew that, I probably wouldn't be here. I probably would still be here.
Yeah.
But, looking forward to, because I know the people that you work with in many of the different areas with the authors, speakers, coaches, etc., providing the awesome service that you do. Many of them are either looking to get into podcasting or podcasting. Many of them are already in it and wanting to get on. Look, the lady I just spoke with before this call, again, she was one who was paying somebody to book her on podcasts and still got nothing from them. So it may not be that. There may be some little tweaks that you'll pick up in a couple of weeks' time that we can help you with, and that'll make a huge difference and certainly enhance some of the results you're getting with Greg and the crew.
No, for sure. So we have Betty Withrow and I have been working with book clients, and we have one of our clients. The whole reason he wrote the book is to get him speaking engagements and get on podcasts. I think so. That's the thing is, it's the book is a calling card to get him on, and he broadcasts and he's hilarious. So he's going to be successful. But that was his whole thing. He wanted to get on stages and talk to people. And so that, and he's not alone. Many others do. We also have clients who they wrote a book because they don't have any time to do anything, right? They don't want to make any public appearances. They don't want to talk to anybody. So that's a completely different thing, really. So,
see, one of the great things about being a pod guest is, apart from a bit of pre-promotion if it's going to be live, or a post-promotion once it's done, you don't really have to invest too much more time and energy. If you've got your framework, you've got your key topics, and you know how to do it, it's a matter of do the pre-promotion, do the podcast, and do some post-promotion, and then go. And if you're in business and you treat this as a valid form of marketing, it's a very important investment, and you can get some great results. And it's like, well, I don't have time for this. Well, how many hours do you spend on Facebook or LinkedIn and get just as much results? You will get greater return on energy with podcasting.
Okay. So you mentioned somebody who had paid to get onto shows. I'm assuming that part of what you're going to teach is how to find the right match for you for podcasts and how to get on the shows. Is that part of what you do, what you're training?
There are some great platforms and great people that
Yeah.
work through that. And I have a resource list, and here's where you
Yeah.
can go, and here's what you can do. The big thing where we really do start is how to position and package yourself to be attractive
Yeah.
to get on. So a uniquely attractive to get on. And then how to have the conversation before you get on. Now, a lot of people will just say, hey, my name is, I'm passionate about this and I like to talk on this. That is just the worst way of going about it, because that's all about you. We teach a 3-part framework on, hey, I've had a look at your listeners. 2 of the key things that I'm going to be able to deliver your people will be A and B. Now, that's a little bit different than saying, hey, I'm passionate about this and I like talking about this. And so those sorts of tweaks before you get on is going to get you on better, higher quality podcasts and have a greater engagement from the actual host.
Yes. Fabulous. And if you have your framework and your presentation, well, and the more you do it, the more comfortable you are, the more invitations you're going to get. Again, back to the selling, you're not necessarily selling yourself, is you're attracting people who want you to be. So like if you get onto a show where there's 1,000, 10,000 people, and somebody there might have a podcast and say, oh, yes, Steve would be a great guest for my podcast. And so podcasts beget podcasts.
Yeah. And also other opportunities, because earlier this morning, my time, I was on a call. A person that had done some previous work with me heard me on a podcast originally. And the purpose of that call, and the call after that was the person who's hosting it, was to speak on a 10,000 person summit alongside Rich Sheffrin, John Assaraf, and a few other little known people.
Right. Yes.
And it was like, okay, yeah, you're one of the first person, because the information you deliver is great. The way you deliver it is entertaining and energetic, and you will fit this.
Yeah.
So when people see you, feel you, create that relationship with you, you become memorable, and then they will start referring you on to other things as well.
Yeah. So it's really a skill that can be on podcasts, could also be on television broadcasts, be speak to sell, like in a live summit or a virtual summit, any of those things. It's a really good skill to have. Yeah.
It's a great skill. And it also transfers across into podcast hosting.
Yes.
And networking. And when you've got what we teach, the frameworks, and you'll see that you can actually transfer it and you will be a better host.
Yes.
And whether you're live, virtual, no matter how you network, which is a fantastic form of marketing, when you learn the frameworks to be able to communicate with people, then you have them excited to want to work with you and follow you up, instead of just, yeah, here, give me your virtual business card and I might talk to you one day.
One day. Yeah, for sure. Or you get a list of contacts from events, right? Like who's going to look? So see, my habit is if I hear a broadcast and somebody says something interesting in podcast, I'll go try to connect with them in LinkedIn and just see if we can start the conversation there, right? So that's kind of what I tend to do.
Yeah, and something they've said has to have moved you.
Yeah.
To use your energy.
Yes.
To do that. Now, again, it's all about energy flow. And if I can move you, excite you, enthuse you to know more, want to know more, then you're going to use your energy to go and follow me up. So it's the 2 magnets that are pulling themselves together, not repelling each other. And that's the big thing.
So I hope enough people in the audience here are feeling the magnetic pull to go check out your your webinar and your presentation, and consider working with you.
Yeah, look, if you want to invest in 90 minutes, I'm sure it will change your attitude, knowledge. If you get nothing else out of it, we're going to have a good time.
Have a good time. At least it'll be fun.
Yeah, the golden rule: if it ain't fun, it ain't done.
Yeah.
But and you know, psychologically, and I've spent hours and hours over the last 5 years delving into the neuroscience of everything, and that's how I built the last flow selling, the blueprint conversion system, how to sell yourself without selling your soul. It's all based on the neuroscience of buying behaviors. And the interesting thing is you actually do stimulate more brain cells, more nerve endings, and you retain more information if you're having a good time and doing it with humor. So there is, apart from having a good time, and I'm always having a good time while I'm doing these sorts of things,
Yeah.
there is psychology behind it that you're going to actually remember more if you're having a good time doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Decades back in the last millennium, I took a philosophy courses, and I did have one very good instructor, but he would, if we weren't ready to talk about the topic of the day, he would joke us into submission. He keep on telling really corny jokes until we said, stop. we'll talk about Descartes. Anyway, I still remember those jokes. They're really corny. So.
Yeah, I promise you there'll be not that many corny jokes, and we'll rip straight into a lot of very valuable content that you'll be able to recognize. Okay, yep, this is what I've been. And I'm not blaming people that they're not getting good results. I'm blaming the people who have taught them, because a lot of the stuff that's out there is you have to have a very good presentation and you have to be a great presenter. Here's how you become a great, valuable pod guest. And it's all about the presentation. As like, no, it's not. It's you engaging. Yeah, energy and empathy. That's the big thing.
I'm with you on that, for blaming the people who taught them to some degree. Like I've run a couple of networking meetings, and there have been people in there for years and years having no results. And I know they've paid big whacks of money for people to try to help them. Part of it is they're not good students, but the other thing is some of the coaches should stop taking their money. It says either you should do what I'm telling you to do or go do something else, right? So
yeah, absolutely. And the good thing is that well, the interesting thing is what the people are going to be learning, even in the masterclass, the free training, is the result of nearly 40 years of being interviewed. When I left school, I became a professional athlete. And after my second year, I was being interviewed on TV. And when I look at those interviews, they are just disgusting. I mean, they were horrible. But later, then I opened up a health club, and I wanted to be interviewed on TV, radio, newspaper to promote. And after that, I became an international speaker, and I was in 8 to 10 countries a year. And whenever I flew into a country, I'd be landed on the TV, the radio, to promote the event that I was speaking at. So I had to learn how to be a good interviewee, to be able to get the message across, to have people turn up so I could basically eat. And having hosted a TV show and exec producer for Warner Brothers, I got to learn how the real pros communicated through that. So that's a lot of the art and the science that we're going to get through. And then most recently using podcasting to transfer my business into different countries. And the things that I learned even way back in network TV, I mean, that's a tougher gig than being on a podcast. I mean, these guys accept no mistakes. So, and I learned from some great people, and that's all going to come across into the foundation of what the people are going to be picking up in a couple of weeks' time.
No, that's great for people to know that you have a radio and television background. I know I've really appreciated some television interviewers and radio. Like I don't know, the CBC radio has had Peter Zosky years ago. He's long gone, and a number of other people who are just masters at introducing their guests, setting them up, having a conversation, and so that you feel like you're sitting down and those two people are in your living room, right, or you're at the kitchen table, and it's a real art
Mm.
to be able to do it. And Terry Wogan in the UK, I don't know. I think he's probably retired or gone now, but that was in the 80s. But he was like that too. He was very warm, engaging. Would get and it managed to get things out of people like that they weren't probably planning to talk about on national television. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's quite interesting because 2008, I think my wife and I, Pam, we started video marketing training courses.
Yeah.
And I had the TV background, so I was quite comfortable in being in front of the camera. And unfortunately, a lot of that TV background was in kids' TV. So I'd have these black holes in front of me that I had to get kids active and really had to get them going. So there was a lot of energy transference through that black hole. And that carried through into the video marketing. And she said, tone it down, tone it down. And because she hadn't had the background, she didn't really want to get in front of the camera that much.
Yeah.
And she thought she had to be the professional weather girl presenter type of thing. And it wasn't until we hosted our own YouTube online show. It was social media marketing, the social marketing channel. And we would do side-by-side interview, banter, etc., about what's happening, what's being released. And we were actually one of the first ones in Australia to break the hashtag on Twitter many years ago. And she realized that, she said, I don't have to be the presenter girl.
You can be you.
I can just be myself.
Yes.
And it was the breakthrough that we got then. And she does more videos than me now and probably does them better.
Yeah.
But it was just like, I just have to be me. And that's where some people fall down. It's like, well, yeah, be you, be more of you through the lens. But that's who people want to connect with.
They want to connect with you for sure. I also spent quite a bit of time doing video of people to talk about what they do. And I've had people just come up and say, oh, I don't know what I'm going to say. I'm really shy, whatever. But I've had one occasion where once a person started talking about what they were doing and demonstrating it, I couldn't keep up. They were just, because they were just, they knew the topic and they knew what they wanted to say. They had the passion about it. Once they forgot about the camera and they just started talking, then it all, it just all went away. And one of probably the most important piece that you're talking about, looking in that little hole, is to imagine you're speaking to one person, and that you're talking, even if there's 10,000 or 10 million people, you're really only talking to one person, as though you're sitting across the table on the kitchen table and having the conversation.
Yeah, in a video mastery program that we teach this, the saying that we have for that, which is absolutely correct, Greg, absolutely correct, is reverse the lens.
Right.
Use the lens as a telescope into the life of the person, the one person that you're talking to. Who is it you're talking to? Where are they? And use the lens, look through the lens into their life. And in the early days when I used to work with the people doing the videos, I could tell whether they were looking at the camera thinking, oh, hell, the camera's looking at me.
Yeah.
Or whether they were really communicating and engaging with that person through the lens. And when you get that ability, even if you are on just a video podcast, and you really talk to the host and the audience can see you talking to the host, or when it's time to talk to you at home, get your pen out, do this, then that creates the real deeper relationship. It's eyeball to eyeball.
Eyeball to
And that's
eyeball.
what makes a big difference.
Yeah. We watched the Taylor Swift movie about the Eras tour, and I just made a comment. I said probably every person in that audience felt at some point that Taylor Swift saw them. And that's a special talent to be able to pull that off in a huge stadium. And I don't know, there were 56,000 people in the SoFi Stadium or something like that. But to feel like that,
we've got that many listening right now, don't we, Greg?
Oh yeah, well, yes. Along the lines of, I used to say that I outperformed Amazon by $1 million a day because I says they were losing $1 million a day and I was making about $1. So, but they had more cash flow than I did, for sure. That's not the case. That's not the case anymore. That was the first years when they were dumping all their money into research and expanding and things. So they were spending way more money than they were making at anything at that point. But
yeah,
it's paid off for them now.
yeah. And again, a good example of, put the investment in, learn to do it the right way.
Yeah,
and it'll pay off.
No, for sure. And again, this is an investment for my audience here. It's going to pay off for a long time. Learn these skills, and as you say, even just watching how you do it in your presentation, that you're modeling a way to do it, and you will have valuable tips, and just come away with a framework that you can apply that to make you the best you can possibly be, and more effective and more an in-demand podcast guest.
Absolutely. There's going to be lots of nuggets there, again, for your people to come early. We'll have a quick chat. And most importantly, take and absorb. And even the biggest thing is implement what you get from it. What you get from it, it's not going to do you any good just saying, yeah, that was nice. No. Yep. Take the next steps to make sure you can implement it. And that's where it's going to make a huge difference.
That's for sure. And I would assume that there are things that even from your 90-minute presentation, they're going to get lots of nuggets. And even if they just take one or two things that they start implementing in what they're doing, that's going to take them on the path to improving. And then, if the more they can do, and then take the program and implement, and they'll be set. You'll be well on their way.
Yeah. The interesting thing is that this is built on the back of sales and marketing experience to help build your business.
Yeah.
It's not just built to be a pretty podcast guest.
Yes.
It's here for a reason.
Yeah.
It's here for you to build and grow your brand and business, not just to stroke your ego and try and get on podcasts that are going to have 100,000 people and not buy a damn thing from you. So it's built on the back of, this is here to grow your business.
Not that there's anything wrong with that if you don't need the money.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, no, that is clearly it's for entrepreneurs, for people who have something to offer, a service, product, something to offer to others, not just a public service announcement.
Yeah. Having said that, and I do have people that I do work with and are currently doing my other training program who are solely focused on creating a bigger impact.
Okay.
Philanthropic. So it doesn't matter what the impact is, whether it's the impact on your income or the impact on other people's lives, it's the same process. So even if it's not for profits and I just want to get out there and share my message and make a bigger impact, this will do it. Yeah. So when we talk about the profitability, it's the return on energy.
Return on energy. Yeah, for sure. And along those lines, it could be what you want to do is you want to put forward a nonprofit or some kind of charitable cause or something, even if you want to save the world from plastic pollution or something like this. being able to speak well and get your message across, even though there's not any money for you, that's worthwhile to know how to do it. Just be able to get your message out.
Yeah. Well, you look at some I regard, and people say to me, Steve, who were some of the best salespeople ever? I think, well, Mother Teresa, Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela.
For sure.
They're not business people, but hell, they sold one hell of a message.
Children tend to be pretty good at it too. It's in your best interest to get me some ice cream, Dad.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. Anyway, there's the link there. I put the link in the chat, and you're available on LinkedIn if people want to reach out to you on LinkedIn, and almost everywhere. but the primary thing is go check out the presentation. There's a little video there. You've got a little introduction, so you can get in there and you can get clarification about what it is, so you're in the right place, and then press on the register button and you're in.
Push the button, come along. And look, the other thing is that if you're hanging around Greg and you're seeing this right now, then make sure you get yourself there, because it's going to be valuable for you. And the other thing is, if you've got other friends, colleagues that are in business and they want to look at a way to grow their business, 2024 is certainly going to be an explosion takeoff year for podcasts. And if you want to be a guest, you might as well do it properly. So be a good friend, invite them along, and we'll see you all there.
Make it a party.
Yep. All righty.
All right. Thank you.
Cheers, Greg. See you, buddy.
Cheers. There we go. I've got two screens.